You're listening to Questionable Material, produced in New York by Jack Helmuth and Brian Sack. QMpodcast.com. Astrology, George.
Oh, hi. I was wondering, I was trying to reach the astrologers.
Well, this is Astrology, George. And if you'd like, I can tell you how I got there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a fairly leading question and you want me to ask it. So go ahead.
I'd like you to ask me this question. See, astrology.com was taken and George.com was taken.
Right.
My name is George. I'm partial to the name George, and that's why I went with Astrology George. That way I get not only the fact that I do astrology, but my name is George. Astrology George.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's a good story. I can't wait to tell my kids later. So what, I assume you do astrology. You are correct in assuming that. That is the astrological arts to you and me, or I really don't know the grammar on that one. And I could ask Venus or Mercury, but I've got other things to do. Sure. Okay. Well, then, yeah, I'd love to sign up for your service. Are you a Pisces? You sound like a Pisces. I'm not. I'm a Libra. You're a Libra. Mm-hmm. All right, then. So you were born in October. I was born in October. It could have also been late September, but yes, you guessed right that there are more days in October that qualify, that sort of encompass the Libra stretch. And yes, I was born in October. Well, I can tell you this, as a Libra is represented by the scales. Yep. Scales means balance. You like balance. You like when you are walking across a stream and you're on the log, you like to stay on that log. You don't like to fall off and fall into the water. You want to be on that log. Oh my God. And that's a very Libra thing. I was sort of thinking you were a bit of a hack, but that's exactly right. Yeah. Now, Libras love balance. Now, let's say you're on the top of a building and you're a TikTok star. Yep. And you want to show people just how cool you are to win TikTok points. Mm-hmm. You walk on the edge of that building. You're standing on the edge. On one side is the roof, but the other side is certain death, a 7-story fall. Oh. And there you are. You like balance. You don't want to fall. You don't want to fall on the roof because you'll be alive but shamed to your TikTok audience. And you don't want to fall all the way down 7 stories to your death because you'll die for one. And you might hit a pedestrian or a puppy. And so you want it. That's what Libras want. They don't want to fall to their death. Now, what would in that situation, what would a Pisces TikTok star do? What would they tend to do? Well, or a Cancer or a Taurus, anyone, how would they sort of handle it differently? Well, from what I understand in astrology, most of the signs don't want to fall to their deaths. And that seems to be a quality that carries through whether you're an Aries, which is a ram, or Pisces, which is a fish, or Cancer, which is a crab. Can you think, what's the deal with that? Shouldn't it be a tumor? I don't know. That was one of the questions on my list. I thought maybe someone who advertises themselves as an expert in astrology would know about the Cancer conundrum. That really gets me, because if you say to me, oh, listen, I've got Cancer, I'd say, oh, no, where's the crab in your body, right? That makes no sense. Right. Oh, you've got lung crab? No. Oh, you have testicular crab? No, you do not. Well, back up on that one. Yes. I did at one point have testicular crabs. Yeah, on the exterior, but I'm talking about the inside. Because you talk about Cancer, you're talking about stuff on the inside. I know what you're talking about. You probably got a little rubby nubby with Betty Weddy, and then you got yourself some crabs. Is that what you're talking about? It's like your powers are great. That is so Libra of you to not want to have crabs. Did you know that? That's a very Libra thing. Libras don't like itching. They don't like the painful itching, the rash, the scratching, the irritation that crabs have. And that's a quality that Libras have, and I know that. Yeah. And who knew that a woman, who is as refined as Betty Weddy would, or Wet Betty, or all of them would give that to me. Yeah. Well, my guess is she was probably a Gemini. What properties do they possess? Well, Gemini are twins.
And of course, twins means one's the good twin and one's the evil twin. So the good twin would not have crabs and would not give them to you. But the evil twin has crabs and wants to give them to you. So my guess is the Betty Weddy was the evil twin and maybe Barbara Weddy was the good twin. But unfortunately, you met Betty.
Would Barbara still want to perform certain acts for me for a limited amount of money on a COVID quarantine budget?
That's a very Libra thing you just said there. So Libras they love getting good deals on sexual transactions. They love sex workers to give them discounts. Mm-hmm. They love samples from sex workers.
Yeah.
And and that's such a Libra thing. It's so funny you said that. You're such a Libra.
It's so funny because I'm always going for free samples. You know, if I go into a carpet store, if I'm going into a restaurant, I'm at just free sample. And this is another one of those cases where I love free samples.
Yeah. And you love free samples because when you were born, however many years ago, Venus
46.
was kind of over in that direction.
Sure.
And Mercury, which is some, 60 million miles away, was over that way.
Right.
And that has a profound impact on your wanting samples. It makes total sense. And I wish more people would really understand and appreciate astrology.
Now, let me ask you a question. Does that take away some of my culpability in certain things? Like if I'm a Libra, can I not help behaving in certain ways? Yes.
Libras like justice. Mm-hmm. And because of the scales. Sure. You know, if you look at a statue of justice, what she's doing, she's showing off her bosoms, but she's also got a sword and she's got a scales, and that's the Libra. Yeah. She's holding a Libra.
I've never made it past the bosoms. She's carrying things?
She's carrying a sword because the sword is like what justice meets out and in a very medieval fashion.
Sure.
And then the scales represents justice. She's weighing the facts. Okay. And she's blind. She's wearing a blindfold. Why?
Wow.
Because she doesn't because the facts look nasty. The facts are very gross. They look like little polyps. And so you stack the facts on the scale and you're balancing the facts. You're not looking at them. You're waving your sword around. It's very dangerous to be around Lady Justice.
And Betty Weddy.
For different reasons. Lady Justice has a frickin' sword and a blindfold on. That's a terrible combination. We tried it blindfolded and a lot of people got hurt.
Oh my gosh.
So you can only imagine that a Lady Justice with scales in one hand and a sword in the other, blindfolded, stumbling around, is a danger to you and me more than Betty Weddy maybe because, crabs you can recover from, as you know.
Wow.
But a beheading, piercing, you can't recover from. And it's very Libra to want to recover from crabs or being stabbed.
Okay, good. So if someone gave me crabs and I was to sort of take justice into my own hands, could I say that, if it's not my fault, I'm a Libra. I had to do that. It was predetermined by the planet gods to have this event occurred.
Yes. That precedent was set in 1937. It went to the Supreme Court. It was the United States versus Bill the Sagittarius.
Mm-hmm.
And he presented that same exact case. He poisoned a bunch of people with moonshine.
Yep.
But it turned out it was kind of maybe on purpose. Okay. But they determined that Sagittarii, which is the plural of Sagittarius, really love poisoning people with moonshine. That is one of the qualities that Sagittarii have. Ask any of your Sagittarius friends. You walk up to them, right? And you'll say, listen, say your friend is Steve. Steve, you're a Sagittarius, right? Well, yes, I am. And when I was born, Mars was over there. And even though it's, 18 months away, going 50,000 miles an hour, that affected me. That affected my personality. It makes me want to poison people with moonshine.
It's funny because I have a Sagittarius friend. He's not named Steve, and his name is Christopher.
That's such a Sagittarius name when you think about it.
Is it?
Yeah.
No kidding. You really know your stuff.
Most Christophi, and that's the plural of Christopher, most Christophi are Sagitti.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That is very interesting. This is so awesome. You're so good at this.
I'm glad you called Astro George. George. Sorry, I forgot my name.
I'm so glad I called Astro George too. But I was just because I was over at my friend's house and for a moonshine mixer just this past weekend.
Funny. Did you drink any?
Yeah, a lot.
See, that's a very Libra thing to do. Libras love moonshine.
We love moonshine, but it's so funny because I was I was bleeding out of all sorts of places in my body today. And I was thinking, what do the stars say I should do? So that's why I called you.
I'm glad you called me. And I knew you were going to call me if you think about it, because there's a sunspot.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever there's a sunspot, I know someone is going to call me within 1 to, say, 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. It's weird. I have this is like a deep red, or like heart blood. I'm bringing up now.
Yeah.
Huh.
This is most likely your Sagittarius friend Steve poisoning you.
So how do you make money doing this?
It's funny you say that. I was actually hoping that you might be a life coach, because I made a terrible life choice in going into this field. It's not paying well.
Gosh, I wish I could help you. I'm just I'm not.
Exactly what a Libra would say.
So, Brian, I saw in the paper today that, and by the paper, I mean online. I mean, I haven't opened a hard newspaper in many years. Have you?
Yes.
Okay, good to know. So I saw in the paper today that Joe Biden, you're familiar with with Joe Biden?
Yeah, is he?
I know that's a fabulous question.
Getting a little nervous? Are you getting nervous? I'm getting a little nervous.
Yeah. There's cause for concern.
There are moments.
There are moments. And this week, just a couple days ago, he said he's going to run again in 2024.
Right. Which he thinks is next year.
Oh, that makes a heck of a lot more sense.
Makes much more sense now when you think it's imminent.
So he thinks he's been on the job for 3.5 years.
Yes.
Because he's just tired all the time.
Yes.
It's only been like 2 months and 10 days. Anyway, I saw that Joe Biden was talking to reporters, and someone asked him what he gave up for Lent. And he said that, quote, "I gave up all sweets for Lent. You have no idea how hard that is for me."
Mm.
And now you're a Lentologist, right?
Oh, yes. I love Lent. I know about Lent. Lent is about sacrifice, and I'm all about that.
And you run a Lent positive website, right?
I do. I have a Lent positive website. Yep.
Why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners what your Lent positive website is, so they can go visit it and sort of check out all of your information, all of your research on Lent?
Sure. Sure. The website's called Brian Sack Wants to Lent You a Hand. And it's Lent positive. And it's all about, gearing up for that big old holiday, Easter, which involves Lent, which involves giving up something you really love for a certain number of days or something, right? Days.
Yeah, no,
several days.
It's really good. This is like being in a 600 level college course.
Yes. So Lent is all about giving up something you love.
Boy, that's really interesting. And so on Brian Sack Wants to Lent You a Hand.com, I was wondering, I know on one of your tabs on the side there, and you have a lot of tabs.
I love side tabs. Yeah, side tabs are a big thing with me when it comes to designing websites. I know,
it's such an interesting choice.
A lot of people put them on the top, and I'm more like, no, put them on the side. Make people keep just scrolling down to find the next one.
That's neat. And you like to have lots of space in between your tabs.
Yeah, it takes you 14 minutes to get to contact us.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Which is odd, because you do want people to contact you. I know you're a very lonely person.
I would love somebody to contact me. Yeah, but obviously nobody's willing to put in the 14 and a half minutes to scroll down to the bottom.
See, that's the problem with society today. No one wants to put in the work.
Absolutely.
It's not your fault.
Lazy people.
Yeah.
It's like the people at the parking lot.
Yeah.
They leave their carts just sitting in the middle. Can't bring it back to the corral. Just leave it right there, you lazy SOB.
Yep. Absolutely right. So I was, I know you keep track of what people give up for Lent. That's one of the things that you do. One of the things you research.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yes, it is. Yep. I do a Lent survey, and people tell me what they're giving up.
No, that's so neat. So I was wondering if we could just talk about what some people out there are giving up for Lent.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
I noticed that Joe Biden apparently has a couple of other things that he's giving up for Lent.
Yeah.
This was just one. Maybe it's the only one that he could remember. But Joe Biden was giving up a few extra things for Lent. Can you shed some light on what else he's giving up other than sweets?
Sure. Balance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good for him.
Yeah. He got a lot of flack for stumbling on the stairs.
Right.
Not fair.
Right.
He's given up balance for Lent.
Yeah.
Equilibrium. That's something, it's because, as he would say, we all take it for granted. We expect to just be able to walk down the street and not just completely trip over a crack that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And he's given up that for Lent. He wants to set an example.
So awesome.
It is awesome.
It's called leadership, Brian. You should look into it.
I will.
I don't want to attack you. No, I'm just saying you should research it. I think you're a fine leader. I'm just saying it's something you should research.
I will. I saw the poster. It got me really intrigued. It said leadership. Check it out.
Yeah, it's a good poster, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have that on my ceiling.
Yeah, I saw that when I was lying on your bed.
Yeah, that's cool. When was this?
You're out of town.
Yeah, but why were you visiting the house?
Oh, boy. If I wish I could remember. I guess I gave up remembering things for Lent.
Oh, that's disarming. Okay. Yeah, heck with it. That's fine. So I was wondering, one other thing that Joe Biden was giving up for Lent that might surprise people. You said that there's one other thing?
Yes. He gave up Dr. Jill Biden.
Oh, he's leaving his wife?
Yeah, well, just for Lent.
Oh.
So, it was really fascinating to people in the D.C. area because these ladies were flipping through Tinder.
Uh-huh.
And suddenly there's their president, Joseph Biden, looking for a rendezvous. And then when you read the details, it's like, listen, I'm in my late 70s, but I'm looking for a lady, but only quickly because after Easter, everything's over.
Right. So it's like for 40 days, we got a chance to really make it.
Yeah. So he's like, I'll be married again by Easter, but for now, I gave up my marriage for Lent. Wow. Which includes the fidelity thing and all that stuff. And so he's just looking for a good day. He's looking to sow some oats. You got to blow off some steam. And I think when you're president, it's super stressful. We've seen hundreds of presidents. I mean, I don't know how many we're up to now, but they all turned gray in a matter. The only one who didn't was Donald Trump, and he stayed peachy orangish. Yeah. But everybody else turned gray.
Now, it's funny because in all the presidents that you are thinking of, their hair turned gray.
Yes.
But what's cool about President Biden is that his skin is turning gray.
His skin is turning gray. If you look at his eyes, the blue is fading.
Yeah.
Fading just to like a concrete-ish kind of gray. The pupils,
yeah, absolutely.
They're like getting smaller, actually. The pupils are shrinking. They're going to be like pinholes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And then there'll be like a brief flash, and then it'll be President Harris.
Oh my! What happens in the flash?
He passes on to the next level. It's like a video game, except you're dead.
Oh, so he's a beyond president?
He'll be our beyond president.
Oh, that's really exciting. Well, good for Joe.
Yeah, no, he is blowing off steam, shall we say?
Okay. Well,
Donald Trump went golfing a lot.
Yeah.
President Biden's not into that. He's into what they call it, the Delaware two-stomp. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
Because that's all the space there is in Delaware. You can only do two stomps.
It's not a big state. Joe was just there yesterday. Not a big state.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's right. Your big trip. You flew through Delaware really quickly.
I drove through Delaware very rapidly.
While you were there, did you do a tax shelter?
I created a shell company.
Okay.
And you can do it. Actually, you can do it as you're going through the Easy Pass lane on the highway. You just kind of throw the paperwork out into a basket, and then you'll get a text message saying your shell company's been created, and you can immediately transfer funds to your shell company.
Oh, that's great. Boy, they've got it going on.
Small states got to make money somehow, and they know exactly how to do it.
They really do. I mean, for the number of state companies that are supposedly in Delaware, I mean, they would have to be at least the size of Alaska. Yeah, no,
they're like the sex worker of states. They've really kind of, they knew what to do with what the little they had. They don't have a ton of skills, but they have one decent skill that everybody wants, which is hiding money.
Right.
Yeah.
And also sex work.
And sex work. Great hookers.
Oh, my gosh. Those two chicks are top of the game.
They sure are.
Woo.
The Delaware two-stomp.
So, speaking of Donald Trump, you keep bringing him up. It seems like he's on your mind. It's probably because he gave up something for Lent that was really difficult for him to say goodbye to. And I would love, oh my gosh, he's not in the news as much anymore.
No.
So I'd love to know what he's given up for Lent. Maybe we could create some headlines.
Well, as you know, he's a very devout Catholic, and
I know
he had planned on giving up Twitter for Lent.
Okay,
but then Twitter beat him to it.
Sure, I heard that.
And they waited until 3 or 4 minutes after he was of no use to them, and then took away his Twitter. So he didn't have that to give up. So he was walking back and forth and figuring out, what can I give up? What can I give up? What can I give up? So he gave up the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City.
Oh, that's a hell of a thing to give up.
Yeah, granted, it's already been partially demolished and hasn't been generating revenue in God knows how long, but he just looked at that and he said, I don't want it. I'm giving that up. I'm done with that.
Man.
Until Monday after Easter.
What's he going to do with the shell of the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City?
He's a brander. He's going to turn it into the Trump burning pile casino. And it's going to be like a theme. It's like a theme of a devastation. Like if you're in a kind of a dystopian future, a Mad Max kind of world where everything's falling apart, and there's this smoldering casino with the blackjack, and you can play blackjack, and in the distance there's piles of burning lumber and bricks and wires sticking out of the wall and people screaming.
Yeah, you're saying the Trump burning pile or casino?
That's definitely resort and casino, and the resort. It's a golf resort, but it's not the kind of golf course you're used to.
Meaning what?
Well, most people they're leisurely. They get up to the tee. They're going to sit there. They're going to look in the distance. Where's the pin? How am I going to hit my ball? Well, now you're being chased by a guy.
Drop a leaf and see which way the wind is.
Yeah, exactly. See how the wind's going. And now you're being chased by a guy with a 2x4 and spikes sticking out of it. So,
no kidding.
Yeah, he's called the motivator. Because Donald Trump is very smart, so he knows that people want to play golf, and golf fees can be very expensive. But what if you make it a little cheaper? All right, but now you get people out of that place as quickly as possible, because every time you're about to hit the shot, there's some dude with a board and nails sticking through it coming after you. You're going to hit that ball and just get moving. So he gets 5 times as many people playing 18 holes as a standard golf course.
People don't give him enough credit. It's a brilliant move.
Yep.
The hospitals do treat him and street him. Restaurants are always trying to flip the table, and Donald Trump's just doing that very thing. Yeah. Restaurants have their tricks. They have uncomfortable seats so that, you don't want to linger too long. Yeah. And our seat, we had the hole in the seat, and then I'd come behind the table and I had a rope with a knot at the end, and I would just kind of whip it up and it would whack you. And if I was lucky, I'd nail you, and you'd want to get out of there as quickly as possible. Wow. Yeah. Chili's doesn't mess around. You were working at Chili's when you were doing this? No, actually I wasn't. That's why they asked me to leave. I got chased out of there. And I know it was coming. I could hear in the distance our manager shouting, "Whip boy is here again." And then I just kind of do my thing and scatter. Did you just love eating Chili's that much? I never ate Chili's. I just enjoyed getting the customers to exit the restaurant as quickly as possible. I'm going to say straight up, that's strange. I felt like I was doing them a favor. Okay. I feel like maybe the manager doesn't feel that way. No, he did. I imagine they probably had to comp a lot of meals. There was a lot of comp meals. There were a lot of bruises. There was a lot of lawsuit threats. And it didn't help that I wore Chili's merchandise. I had a Chili's hat and a Chili's shirt. So they assumed incorrectly that I was part of the operation. But I was just a Chili's enthusiast who was dedicated to destroying their brand. And I don't know why. Man. An enthusiast who wants to ruin their brand. I had a strange logic to it. And my idea was I had all this Chili's merchandise. If I drive them out of business, that merchandise will then become worth something. Valuable. Yeah. What I didn't know, there would be a huge market for that. That's what I had hoped. What I didn't count on is my deodorant would stain the pits of all the Chili's shirts I had, and nobody wants to buy them on eBay. Oh my God.
These yellow stained Chili's shirts. They just don't want them.
That is tragic.
Yep.
Well, you come out of Chili's with a yellow stain one way or the other.
That's true.
So, okay. So Donald Trump, again, genius. Now we know what he's giving up for Lent. The next one I wanted to ask you, Brian.
Yeah.
Now, Governor Cuomo, I know you're a fan.
Love him. He's great.
Great guy. Great leadership. We talked about leadership earlier. This guy's, got leadership coming out of his ears. He's giving up something for Lent. We'd love to sort of get that story out there.
Yeah. He gave it some thought. He too is a devout Catholic.
I know.
And he decided to give up his presidential aspirations.
Aw.
For Lent and possibly even longer.
Well, that's so nice because I know that's something he's had really since he was about 4.
Yeah, he wanted it so much ever since he was a kid. He wanted it very much when he married Kerry Kennedy, trying to get into the Kennedy clan. And although that didn't work out because they didn't like him at all. And so he left, but he still wanted to be president. So he started, writing books because that's what you do. You start branding yourself as a leader. I'm the leader. And so, he even last fall when he had the book coming out showing how he conquered COVID, which you might have noticed has not yet been conquered, but he was ahead of his time in that respect.
Totally.
Yeah. And so he's decided to give up the presidential aspirations. He could resume those after Easter, but he's weighing his options.
Yeah, I wouldn't. How was your trip with your boys driving up the East Coast of the United States?
It was long.
I bet.
I think it was my longest road trip. My kids wanted to get back to New York. I was going to take my time and kind of city hop because it's their spring break.
Yeah.
And they're more like, no, we're good. We'll get back to New York, please. And
really?
So we went from Tampa to Savannah, which is 6-something hours.
Yep. And
then Savannah's a cool city, very pretty and waterfront, although no outdoor dining at the waterfront. I don't understand that. Had a great restaurant there called the Trailer Park.
Okay.
That if I do come down with COVID, I got it there because the tables are all packed together. It's like old times in Savannah.
I was just going to say, Trailer Park with the free mention on a big podcast like this is probably going to start sending us free stuff. But now you're accusing them of giving you COVID. So we probably blew that.
We might have blown it. So much for getting free peanut butter and jelly wings.
Ooh.
Yeah, they have weird things, but it was really good. Very good.
That sounds awesome. Okay.
From Savannah, we drove to Charleston, saw Fort Sumter, where the Civil War started.
Yep.
I learned a lot of history.
Oh, great.
I learned that Fort Sumter was mostly blown up.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of rubble. They fixed it up a little bit. It's not as pretty as it once was.
Right. So it's a very it mirrors the Trump Taj Mahal.
It's like the Trump Taj Mahal. And then we drove to Quantico.
Oh.
And in Quantico, I went to the National Museum of the Marine Corps.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a unique museum to visit.
It's a very unique. It's an awesome museum. If anybody goes to the DC area, Quantico area, National Museum of the Marine Corps, phenomenal museum. And my father has worked with them and is very supportive of them. And so we got because it's closed because of COVID, but we got a tour by a Marine Corps Major General.
That's awesome.
Which terrified me. Because first of all, but my hair has grown. I haven't done much with my hair since COVID.
Yeah,
I used to have very short haircut.
Yep.
And I haven't done it, and my kids haven't either. We've all just kind of given up on the hair thing because it just doesn't matter anymore.
Correct.
And so I think 2 days before we're supposed to go meet the Major General for this tour, my son, the 14-year-old, is like, "Can we get haircuts? We need haircuts. Can we get haircuts?" Like he's all terrified about the general yelling at him.
Oh, wow.
And so I even texted, I said, General, looking forward to seeing you. Just FYI, we have apologies in advance for our COVID hair.
Oh my gosh, that's really funny.
But he didn't care at all. So we got this tour. It's a great museum with the history of the Marine Corps from 1775 onward.
Okay,
and
great.
They have all this equipment in there, real equipment from World War II, World War I, planes, armored vehicles, weapons.
What are the exhibits like?
Well, they have the invasion of Tarawa Island, which is where that is. It was in World War II in the South Pacific. It was one of the islands the Marines stormed. They have the flag from the Iwo Jima flag raising. You're familiar with that famous, iconic photograph. They have that flag.
They have the flag itself.
They have the flag itself that flew on Mount Suribachi. And they have exhibits basically of all the Marine conflicts. So starting from when they were snipers on top of ships, they'd be snipers on frigates basically back in the 1700s.
Sure. Going back to, let me interrupt you. What are some of the other relics that they had from the World War II as they were storming around Japan?
Well, they had Emperor Hirohito's bedpan.
Wow, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, they had grabbed that because they actually used, being Marines, they used that to beat several Japanese to death.
Sure.
At the time.
Sure.
Nowadays you wouldn't do that. We're friends.
No, yes, yeah.
But at the time,
about it. Yeah.
At the time you'd call them all sorts of nasty names and attack them, and they used the bedpan.
Now you do, and they call that a hate crime.
That's right. Yeah, it's weird. Times have changed. But they have reenactments.
Okay.
So
what do they reenact? That sounds awesome.
That's like there's a World War I reenactment of like a Marine fighting a German in the trenches.
Yeah.
And it's really it's dramatic. Very good.
Do you get to, in the reenactments, do you get to like choose a side? Like, could you be with the Nazi side and like yell things like, Babe Ruth is a homosexual, things like that? Yeah.
You can be like a little Goebbels. Do you want to be Goebbels? And you sit,
Ooh.
you gain a lot of weight and you sit in a seat and you say things that aren't true.
He would fit in well in today's society.
That's right. Exactly. It could be work for Vox. It's a great exhibit. And then they also have Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can
they just brought the whole country of Korea over?
The entire country of Korea.
You can't do that.
They did it. Marine Corps Museum.
This is American colonialism. And normally I think a lot of that stuff is bunk, but you can't just take that chunk of the Asian continent.
It's amazing.
To a museum.
You should see the looks on these people's faces. Like, where are we? What is going on?
I bet.
I went to bed and I was in Pyongyang, and now look at me, and where I'm in Virginia.
Yeah, there's a Popeye's chicken across the street. What is that?
Yeah, because that's food. What is that? Like, what do you do with that? And we're like, oh, you eat it. You can actually purchase it and eat it. They're like, no, it has to be given to you by the government, and they don't have any. And we're like, no, that's different. This is Virginia.
Boy.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it really must be fun to sort of meet the Koreans.
Yeah, no, they except for the stomach parasites, they're cool people.
I bet. Were you able to, see the demilitarized zone?
Yeah, they brought the whole demilitarized zone over. It's beautiful.
How's that different when it's in American soil?
It has more Hardee's in it.
The Hardee's burger chain.
Yes. Now, over in Korea, it's just untouched land. It's actually, nature is kind of taken over. Mm-hmm. It's actually quite beautiful and tranquil. And here it's more Hardee's and a strip mall with a pawn shop.
Okay. So we've improved their land.
That's how I look at it.
Well, good for us. Initially I had a problem with this whole stealing of Korea and bringing it to the Marine Museum. But you know what? You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. You should thank us.
When you leave the Vietnam exhibit, what happens then?
The doors open as you're leaving the Vietnam exhibit, and then you have a bunch of hippies yelling at you and calling you baby killer.
No kidding.
And they're cursing at you and spitting, and you're just like, hey, listen, I didn't want to be there. I got drafted because my dad's not a senator. He's not in government, so I had to go.
Yeah, of course.
And you're trying to, and these people, and they kind of traumatize you, and then. You can go actually there's a VA, like a mock of a VA, and you go in there and you get fairly mediocre medical care.
Yeah.
And so it's really authentic, the experience you get.
That's really great. Do you leave with like a little Vietnamese child who may or may not be yours? You
actually are given a Vietnamese wife.
No kidding.
Yeah, that you take with you. Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now I might visit.
Yeah. Mion we got Mion.
Okay.
And she's lovely. She's very sweet. She covers her mouth when she laughs because she doesn't want me to see her teeth. That's a thing. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, of course.
They do this, cover their mouth. But she's very, very sweet. And
how's your relationship with your new wife?
It's better than the one with my old wife, who's
Yeah,
furious.
I would imagine so.
Absolutely furious.
Yeah.
She's like, who is this? I'm like, well, that came with the exhibit. It's a great museum.
How has that impacted life now that you're back at home?
Well, the cooking's different.
Mm-hmm.
Myung she's about 3 or 4 dishes that she does very well, but I'm really tired of pho. You know, it's just, okay, it's a soup. Yeah, I get it. Is there anything else you can do here? Like my wife made a phenomenal lasagna a few weeks ago. Can you do that? And she's like, no. She just kind of looks at me. Blank stare.
That's rough.
Yeah.
How other than in the kitchen, like how are things different? Like in the rest of the home.
Really good. Really good. But the exhibit keeps going. So,
okay.
So we go into Afghanistan, and that, and the exhibits, you just stay there. Yeah. So like you walk in and say they've actually recreated a Middle Eastern village, and you go, and you look around and you see it's like they've recreated the sounds and the atmosphere of this village in the Middle East, and you're just walking, and then you're like, when does this end? When do I get out of this exhibit? And they're just like, and there's talk about you leaving the exhibit. They're like, yeah, you might be able to, I don't know. We'll talk about that later. And you just keep going and going and going and going and going.
Oh my God. And the next president will get out of the exhibit though.
Yeah. And well, they say that, and then there's even like a TV in one, you look inside one of these mud huts and you see there's a TV, there's an old TV, and you can see that a new president has been elected.
Oh, great.
On a vow of getting us out. And then you just keep going. And
That's so strange.
It's amazing. And keep walking and walking. And finally the kids were starving. I was like, we need DOR, get me out of here. And so they got us out. It was fun.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. About the military museum you went to.
It was great.
Okay.
I liked it a lot.
All right. Well, why don't you marry it?
I am going to marry it.
Okay. Well, what are your wives going to say about that?
I know one will say a lot of things. The other one will say something, but I won't understand it because my Vietnamese is terrible.
I like that it's your Vietnamese that's terrible and not her English. You must really love her.
I do. I'm not one of these people who demands you speak my language.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly capable of not speaking your language.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
As long as she knows the sign language with one finger for one hand and a whole of the other hand.
Yeah, that's for a beignet. So every time I'm feeling in the mood, I get a beignet.
Not a bad fallback for that sign language.
But I'm stuffed. I've decided we should grow the podcast, Jack.
Really?
Yeah.
But we have the perfect number of listeners right now.
No, I thought about it. I like that number. And I was like, you know what? Why not more? Why not more? And then I was thinking,
I don't have any more room in my heart to love more listeners.
That's the thing, Jack. You just got to let it go. If you love something, set it free.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. Follow the podcast. Send us comments if you want. contact@qmpodcast.com, or you can send them from the website, qmpodcast.com, to tell your friends and family. This is what you do. You go into your phone book.
Okay.
Your entire phone book.
Yep.
You email everybody. Just email blast them. You say, "How's this podcast? I really like it. Check it out." And then when you get angry emails from friends like, "Why are you spamming me this crap?"
Yeah.
You just say, "I'm sorry, I was hacked."
That's good.
An Indian guy hacked my email and was trying to get you to buy Amazon gift cards and listen to that podcast. That's what you tell them.
Okay. Why do we have to slander him like that saying he's Indian?
Because they are. That's every time somebody has tried to get me to buy gift cards for them in some kind of con on the internet, it's been an Indian guy.
Okay.
It's a big hub for that.
That's good to know. Should people review the podcast? Would that help?
Reviews always help because people will judge a podcast based on the reviews, and they'll look and they'll say, "Oh, it's a funny podcast."
Yeah,
just like with restaurants.
Okay.
Oh,
what about should people tune in next week? Should they listen next week? Is it going to be an even better episode next week?
It will be better next week. Here's the thing. So we talked a little bit with a guy who knows things, or you did, Jack.
Okay.
And he gave us some advice. And one is a video.
Yep.
So we're going to be working on more video and especially the stuff like your auditions and sponsor things, sponsor bits, things like that, which I think visually are very appealing to watch you be incapable of not laughing.
That's right. I swear to God, I try very hard not to laugh during those, but I don't know what's coming.
Because we did do a demo and we did record one of the ones we did. And I showed it to my wife, and she was crying and laughing as she's watching your facial expressions as you knew you couldn't keep it in.
Oh, that's so awesome! That makes me happy.
It was funny.
So we have that coming. Brian, do you think people realize how much of the show is improvised?
No, most of it's improvised.
So for example, in today's episode, where we talk about what Joe Biden gave up for Lent. A real news story. That's a real. So we get into it through reality, and you have no idea this is coming.
Right.
You have no idea I'm even going to talk about this.
Right. There is almost no show prep.
You know a lot about Lent.
There's very little show prep.
Well, there's very little show prep. There's writing for some. We do have a few
for the bits,
but for the most part, like any of those bits where it's like, hey, Brian, you know how you're an expert at something? You have no idea what I'm about to say.
Right. Never.
And you're on the spot in that moment making up facts and stories about movies and songs and stuff. And all of that is completely unplanned and improvised. It is all improv.
Yes.
It's a high wire act, and we want to see if you can do it. And I love like turning the screws on you and seeing if you can actually do it.
I know. Okay, I can tell from your facial expressions.
Yeah, when I tell you to come up with to tell us what your website is for your Lent positive website.
Lent positive website?
All of that is improvised.
Yeah.
And I think people don't even realize that.
Well, I hope they do. The only thing that's scripted really are the opening bits.
Yep.
And then your auditions and sponsor bits. I prepare those even though you don't see what's coming. You don't know what you're reading. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the joy of it. That's the joy. That's the pleasure of it.
Well, but that's also the fun of seeing you walk the tightrope, is seeing like, how's Brian going to get out of this one?
Yes.
Woo, boy. Save all that good improv for the next episode. I'll see you then, buddy.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
That was questionable material. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Make sure to review the podcast. Make sure to visit qmpodcast.com.